I'm no stranger to weight regain, especially since I've been on a diet ever since I hit double digits. And now that I've been in the double digits for more than 30 years, that's a whole lot of time spent losing and regaining the same weight, plus plenty of stray pounds along the way. When I first began dieting, counting calories helped me drop a quick 10 only to gain 15 back. When Atkins was all the rage, I cut carbs to drop 20 pounds, but all of that low carb misery still resulted in 25 pounds of regained weight. I exercised more, I ate less, and this one time I even followed this weird Slim Fast Jumpstart plan where I was supposed to lose 5 pounds in 5 days by eating a few cups of corn plus some shakes. And that plan lasted less than 2 days before I wanted to eat my hand. Lose 10, regain 15. Flashy new diet, lose 20, regain 30. You know the drill for more than 30 years. Once I found keto and intermittent fasting, I thought I had it all figured out. I was done with bad diets where I'd lose some weight only to gain back double. And I hit it big this time by getting to my lowest weight ever. Twice. Hey, wait, that sounds like another yo-yo diet. Except it wasn't, because there was that time that I grew an entire human in between dropping 100 pounds. And I kept those 100 pounds off for over 5 years, a feat that less than 5% of people who lose a large amount of weight can do. But I did it with a combo of keto and intermittent fasting, and I did it without struggling. Well, until that time that I really struggled. As in, I put back on 50 pounds even while trying so hard to get back into my coveted size 6 jeans. After dropping 100 pounds and improving a ton of health problems that I didn't even know I could improve, my health took a huge nosedive and my scale skyrocketed back up to 190 pounds. And this was after hitting an all-time low of 135 and then maintaining somewhere around 145 for a few years. So how the heck did I regain nearly 50 of the pounds that I lost after swearing off yo-yo diets for good? Here's 5 things I learned about weight regain, which will finally help me stay at a healthy weight forever. No, seriously, this time I mean it. Number 1, most of your diet needs to come from whole foods. There's a never-ending debate about whether you should follow low carb or low fat. But then your brother's sister lost 20 pounds on paleo. And now that we're on the topic of diets, isn't the Mediterranean diet the best for longevity? The list of diets that you should follow for weight loss goes on and on. Except it feels like you've tried all of these diets at one time or another, yet here you are watching another video about how to take the weight off again. Do you want to know what most of these diets have in common? Nope, not even one of them is magic because they cut out an entire food group. The reason all of these diets work for someone at some point is they're all based on whole, real foods. And do you want to know the secret behind what the few who manage to keep the weight off do pretty much forever? They keep eating whole, real food, yes, even after their diet ends. When you follow low carb, you're cutting out all of the junk foods like potato chips, donuts, candy, and French fries. When you follow low fat, you're cutting out all of the junk foods like potato chips, donuts, candy, and French fries. But wait, aren't those the same foods? Yep, and that's the reason that some people find success with a low-fat diet, while others claim low carb is the only way to go. But both of these diets cut out the majority of processed foods that lead to excess hunger. And do you want to know what happens when you get rid of excess hunger? You eat less. Plus, you have more energy because now you're getting the nutrients that your body needs to thrive instead of the chemicals and empty calories found in processed foods. And the chemicals and empty calories found in these foods, even the diet-friendly foods like protein bars or overly processed diet meals, set you up to overeat by 600 calories per day. But when you eat mostly whole, single ingredient foods, you'll feel fuller on less so that you eat less, which is a requirement for weight loss. And just to add a bonus tip that will make your diet 1,000 times easier to stick to, when you prioritize protein in both meals and snacks, this makes the entire process way easier. But we'll talk more about that in the next tip. Now, if my previous yo-yo dieting self only knew how important real food was to maintain a healthy weight, I would have saved myself decades of falling for every fad diet out there and all of the miserable weight gain that came with it. The second way to avoid regaining everything you lose is you have to eat in a way that makes you feel good while also feeling satisfied. So, whether you decide to follow low carb, low fat, paleo, or you finally ditch any diet with a label in favor of keeping your plan simple, whatever plan you follow has to leave you feeling relatively full. You have to enjoy what you're eating, and it has to give you energy. Because any diet that doesn't accomplish these three things won't last past a few weeks. And if your diet only lasts for a few weeks, well, then you're either back to regaining everything you worked so hard to lose, or you're onto another fad diet that will once again only last for a few weeks. The most important part of any diet is to be strategic about your meals. And this is true whether you're following keto, intermittent fasting, or even if you're counting macros for weight loss. Trust me, I have done it all. Plan every single meal around protein first, since this is the macro that will help keep you fuller longer while also providing the essential nutrients that your body needs to stop cravings and unnecessary hunger in their tracks. And since you're basing your diet on real foods this time instead of a bunch of junky diet-friendly foods, next fill your plate with nutrient-dense foods like vegetables or maybe even some lower-calorie fruit in order to add some sweetness and extra micronutrients. And while even starchy carbs or sweet treats like dark chocolate can fit into most plans, make sure to save these foods for last. And when I say last, I do mean last. On my flexible dieting plan, where I allow myself pretty much anything I'm craving, I don't even think about touching dark chocolate until after dinner. And I only enjoy a few squares if I have room left over in my macros. If I'm eating a sandwich for lunch, I always start with a few ounces of protein before my lips even touch the bread. And that's because when you start your meal with protein or even fibrous veggies like a salad, your blood sugar spike remains lower, which helps you feel more in control of hunger and cravings for the rest of the day. So whenever it comes to foods like starchy carbs, always save these for the end of your meals. If you keep starting your meal with a big forkful of pasta, you will have higher blood sugar spike, which means you're more likely to overeat during the meal, and then you're going to get hungrier even sooner. The third thing that I learned that will help me keep the weight off forever is how much activity matters. Flash back to when I regained nearly 50 pounds. This came at a time when my inactivity stars aligned. As someone who previously was quite active, mostly because I was always trying to lose weight, once I had kids, I no longer had a whole lot of time for formal exercise. But I never understood how many calories constantly getting up throughout the day actually burned. I never realized that getting up to make another bottle, grabbing the 87th toddler snack of the day, wiping the pee off the mirror, going for the walk to the park, pushing both kids on the swing, sweeping up the 87 snacks burns far more calories than any 45 minutes spent on the elliptical. In fact, studies show that neat calories add up to hundreds to thousands of calories burned each day, while maybe you're lucky if you burn 300 calories during an intense cardio session. And when you overdo intense cardio, this is a double weight gain whammy, since now you're so tired that you don't get the neat activity that was probably burning way more calories than the 45 minutes that you spent huffing and puffing on the elliptical. Things like parking at the back of the lot or walking to the far bathroom at work. These things start to add up. And when your neat calories are higher, that means you could eat a little bit more while still losing weight at a reasonable pace. Getting back to when my inactivity stars aligned, once my kids were becoming more independent, I was spending much more time on my computer than getting up to clean another mess. I was also going through some things with my health, which meant that we drove to the park instead of walking, or maybe I skipped the gym in favor of watching TV. Once my health started improving, I implemented the same move more, eat more approach to weight loss that I still follow today. Only these days I eat even more while moving a little bit less, since I have an entirely different set of goals. And since I began feeding my body in order to fuel my workouts while still staying in a slight calorie deficit whenever my goal is to lose fat, I feel the best that I ever have. So whether you add more moderate exercise to your calendar or you just get off your butt more often throughout the day to declutter your house, giving up a sedentary lifestyle for good will go a long way when it comes to keeping the weight off. The fourth thing that will help both you and me stop yo-yoing weight for good is getting better sleep. Whenever I thought about weight loss in the past, my plans were all about giving up the foods I loved while performing grueling activities that most people hate. And those were the two variables that I always focused on: cutting calories while adding more strenuous activity. who knew that the 8 hours you spend in bed each night have anything to do with the number on the scale? But after 50 pounds of regained weight, I finally realized that when I don't prioritize the habits that lead to high quality sleep, my lack of counting sheep definitely shows up on the scale. Thinking back to when I regained the weight, I remember feeling exhausted most of the time. Even though I had good energy in the morning, most days I struggled to keep my eyes open past 11. And I do mean 11 a.m. And that exhaustion followed me right up until I put my kids to bed at 8. But once it was time for my head to hit the pillow, I couldn't sleep. Or if I did have an odd night where I was fast asleep, I found myself tossing and turning at 2 or 3 a.m. And dealing with constant exhaustion meant the food choices that I made weren't the best. Plus, my activity plummeted, and I even went through bouts of depression since I never had the energy I needed to live life. And you're no exception to the rule. When you don't focus on high quality sleep, both your activity and your food choices will suffer. And since not getting good sleep stresses your body, your metabolism could even slow down as a result. That's why sleep is so important when it comes to a fat loss plan. Of course, it's easy for me to preach about getting more sleep, but when you're in the thick of it and you're not sleeping well, it seems like this is something that is completely out of your control. Except it's not. I mean, unless you have a newborn baby that wakes you up every few hours, well, then you pretty much have to deal with the hand you're dealt. But anyone who's not a mother to a child under 2 can take steps to improve your sleep. When my sleep was suffering, I was lucky enough to come across the Huberman Lab podcast. Dr. Huberman has 2 entire episodes dedicated to improving sleep. So if this is an area that you struggle with, I highly recommend listening to both episodes while also taking notes. Some of the tips I learned through Dr. Huberman that have helped my sleep include getting 5 to 10 minutes of sunlight into my eyes every morning, cutting off caffeine at least 10 hours before bed, and taking magnesium threonate an hour before bed. The 5th thing that makes me confident that I will never regain my lost weight again is I've made resistance training a part of my routine. Now, I'm someone who has dabbled in weight training for as long as I've been attempting weight loss diets. Back when I first became that double-digit dieter, I was following along with workout tapes like The Firm and even Cable Fit Club with Tammy Lee Webb and Body by Jake. As the years went by and I joined a gym, I usually made it into the weight room for at least a few minutes, but this was only after I got in an hour of calorie-burning cardio first. And up until this past year, I knew that weight training was important, but I'm going to be honest, I never really understood how important. After all, I was always desperate to lose weight on the scale, and bulking up like the Hulk was never part of my goal. And that's exactly why I spent 90% of my time on the cardio side of the gym. I had machines to pedal nowhere fast, and I had calories to burn. But this past year, my fat loss plan of attack changed forever. I learned that burning all of the calories on cardio machines isn't the fat loss tool that it's cracked up to be. In fact, pedaling nowhere fast is pretty much all those machines are good for. Well, I guess they're also good for cardiovascular health, as the name cardio implies, but using these machines just to burn more calories is actually counterproductive to fat loss over time. And the reason for this is when you work hard to burn calories on these machines, this is sending the signal to your body to conserve calories. After all, you're doing more work with less fuel, so there's obviously a famine going on, right? Now, I know this isn't true, and you know this isn't true, but your body evolved to not starve to death. So overdoing cardio while also drastically dropping calories actually slows down your metabolism. This means that the calorie deficit that you thought you created will become non-existent if you continue with an eat way less and move way more approach. Eventually, the only way to continue losing weight with this method is to keep adding more cardio while cutting calories even lower. And how long will a plan like this work? After close to 30 years of desperately trying to make this plan work, I can wholeheartedly tell you that it won't. I mean, it could work for a few months. You could maybe push through the hunger and struggle with exhausting exercise for a little while, and you'll probably have some success at first, but eventually you will join the 95% of people who regain everything they lose. This past year, I ditched all intense cardio and I focused on strength training as my priority in the gym. While I still don't have the goal to look like the Hulk, what strength training does is send the signal to your body to hold on to muscle, which is a great way to boost your metabolism. So, even though most dieters have to continually find ways to drop calories in order to keep the scale moving, these days I'm actually eating more than ever, and my waist is still shrinking month after month. And while you may not see the same big drops on the scale when you focus on building muscle, that's not really a bad thing. When I first began lifting for fat loss last April, my scale didn't drop for the first 12 weeks of my plan. But as you can see in these photos, I definitely got smaller, which means I was losing fat while also gaining muscle. This is also known as body recomposition, and this is an amazing way to reach your goals since when you add muscle while also losing fat, not only will you work towards the toned body that most women want, but you also get to eat way more while doing it. Now that you understand 5 ways to quit regaining everything you lost, let's cheers to a life filled with delicious food and healthy weight that's finally easily maintained. If you want to learn more about how I figured out the right macros to get started with my forever fat loss plan, watch this video next. Or you can check the pinned comment to set up a free consultation to see if one-on-one fat loss coaching is right for you.